people maybe hear a bit of an accent, and you're quite right, I'm from Perth, so I'm not from Adelaide. So the original, so I have the pleasure basically to be Australian by choice, which I made 30 years ago. So I'm very proud of that, and I'm now a proud Australian. Can't lose the accent basically, but you know, so I'm working on it. There should be some sound coming up. No, doesn't matter. We can live without it. So yeah, I'm represent a company called Catwalk, and I'll tell you all about it. But like John today, he traveled back to Babylon. Where's John? So I'm not going all that far basically, but I'm traveling back to 1948, and I have a little guess for you. So if you can tell me who the company is, you know, please scream out. We had a fantastic lunch, so don't take that as your guideline basically, please. But I want to share this quickly with you.
Okay. We bring out our whole staff and we have them go through the motions, making pretend burgers and fries.
All right, Steve, anticipate that. You got to keep the train.
Anyone?
Okay.
Correct.
Dick is running around with his stick, marking where all the equipment should be.
Tuck in.
And I make you aware, it was done in 1948, not the movie, but the principles
Over
basically.
and over, hashing it out.
And I have another second question for you. Who has taken first rank now in head of the Catholic Church worldwide to be the biggest property owner
Everybody stop!
in the world? It's actually McDonald's too. You know, so there is a bit of a connection there. So with success and planning and project management, I think. So I think it's a good story what we heard today, basically from everyone. So now what year is it now? What is it, 2017? So this is space planning, how we do it nowadays, basically. So yeah, we basically are quite proud. We have invented, with a lot of help from the USA, a product now called Catwalk, or CID Walk, as we say in Germany, because they ask us always what it has to do with cats, basically, so we had to change that slightly. Catwalk was invented out of necessity, basically, 2-3 years ago, and we as a company, basically, we are specialized in command and control centers, mainly for oil and gas and mining over in WA. But in the meantime, we work all over Australia and in New Zealand as well. And actually the first commercial user of Catwalk was a Kiwi company, basically. You know, so they are adapting technology much faster than we do here in Australia, actually. So yeah, we do command and control centers. Based on that, we had to fulfill a job here in Australia in Adelaide for Power SA, I think they were called at the time. And I had the challenge basically to have 50 operators to tell them how their new center will look, and they still wanted to change it as well. So I put you on a bit of a journey how we did this basically, and to give you the background how Catwalk was invented basically. So traditionally, I think we all have been there, so we know that's a traditional planning, even in BIM. I think we see it all on a small screen basically, and it's not a very collaborative working environment, and I know there are touch screens and all this sort of things, but all these collaborative tools, in my experience over the last 30 years, didn't do it basically for a lot of people. So, when we did the job, and you can maybe see very carefully, when you look very carefully, I'm sure a lot of you have been in that same space. We had to mark basically 3 rooms up on the floor, use different color codes, and then we had to manufacture, in that case, 18 consoles actually. So that was a quite expensive exercise for the client. So then I had this insight at night basically, and I said, well, there had to be something easier. So this was the advanced model actually, maybe 3-4 years ago. We were really doing layouts like this. And I maybe should point out, every one of these desks is an asset worth around $50,000. So we are not talking about IKEA furniture here. We're talking about, so a control room is easily $1 million, $1.5 million. And so this is not small stuff basically we are moving around here to represent assets. So that was the easiest and quickest way how we could do it basically. And this design process normally takes around maybe 3 to 6 months, because we have to update the drawings, we have to send them to all the stakeholders. Stakeholders come back. So that means we worked for a company called Chevron over in WA, and we had a revision Z basically, right? So this process took around, in their case, 6 months, was for one of the mega projects up north. And so yeah, so that's a traditional, so if you put a cost on it basically, if you have a lot of expensive engineers sitting there, we call it the $5,000 hours basically, because sometimes we only made a decision about the color, let's say, for example, right? So it's quite expensive stuff when you talk big projects. So new approach, and luckily, so we are talking all here, and part of my presentation is about R&D. We would have never been in this position basically where we are right now if we wouldn't have had access to a lot of R&D funding basically. And I can only recommend that to every commercial organization to get into it. And I think the federal government specifically does some tremendous things. At least they did it for us basically. So we share maybe a little insight.
Catwalk is an interactive life-size visualization tool used for space-critical design, validation and optimization. Catwalk is something completely new. It doesn't exist anywhere else. Our technology was developed out of a need to help our clients understand their physical space. We worked a lot in control room environments, and we often found people had issues with understanding how big or small their rooms were. So Catwalk allows us to use augmented reality in a life-size scale to have people interact with their design on a real-time, full-size basis.
So Catwalk was funded basically with around $1.2 million from the federal government. So and unfortunately we had to match fund this. So this for small companies is quite a, you know, so you think it's an easy ride, it's not actually. So but we sort of survived it, and I think now we are looking to quite a bright future. So from a technology point, so I know a lot of people might not be too technically minded here, and we want to really point out that we see Catwalk as a collaboration tool, not necessarily as a piece of technology. Even we have patents, I think now lodged in 20 countries, one of them Korea, so we checked it. And we had yesterday, I should maybe mention this, we had a delegation over from the Korean people basically, and thanks again, so it was a lot of good feedback basically. You know, so, and I hope we can do something together as well in the future. But in a nutshell, so people asked me yesterday as well, we've got basically in around 250 square meter projection area, so that allows us to put real size projection onto the floor. Key was, we showed key yesterday, city planning as well. So yes, we can do that as well, so because today is all about construction and BIM. And we think that with the technology, basically, we can move things and attach things basically to any project we want to. So we are not limited to command and control centers, of course. So we have 12 motion capture cameras in there, basically. So that is basically a full motion capture suite like used in Hollywood. That's how we achieve very rapid and direct movement, basically. We have a couple of computers basically, so it's not a super complex system basically, but the whole software has been written here in South Australia, so that means with the help of UniSA. And some of you may know a guy called Bruce Thomas, or Dr. Bruce Thomas basically, so he and I think we both are sort of the brainchild behind all this. And I want to acknowledge him today as well for his really efforts he puts in. So we have a direct push, of course. So what we found the most useful thing to do is basically that we do all the decisions basically in a group in Catwalk, and we can move things around very quickly. So what we try to do is basically when people come to us, they can work in 60 seconds. So that means there's no big technology. So we are not focusing on the technology, we are focusing really on the human interaction basically. So how do people interact? So we do quite often sessions like with an industrial psychologist present or a human factors person. So we bring a whole team of people together basically. And as I mentioned before, our first client was a company called Transpower from New Zealand basically. And they got, well, there's some comments underneath basically, and it's maybe our biggest advocate in New Zealand. I call them our best sales force over there, but they don't get any commissions, but we could solve basically quite a lot of problems for them. And so we did a traditional workshop basically where people come over for a day. They shuffle things around, experiment, go back in the hotel, come back the next morning and said, oh, I have a thought about this, can we reshuffle this? This reshuffle process takes normally a couple of hours, and then they come back with a solution basically, which they can take back home, and everyone is happy because everyone has seen it basically before. So it's basically like what you see is what you get, and you can't complain later anymore. So now, what we have figured out, and I've done personally maybe 30 or 40 projects like that, so we can now validate basically that we cut the 2 or 3 months decision time down to maybe 1 or 2 days, because we put all stakeholders in one room. And I always say we don't let you go before you have solved the problem really actually, so and that helps sometimes. But the thing is, because it's so visual, people get to the point much quicker basically. So a couple of projects we have done in Australia and New Zealand, and recently we, with the help of the government as well, we set up in Germany as well. And so we have basically now proven the concept, and now I think it's time to go out and see what other markets we can attack, and certainly BIM is one where we have seen a lot of interest. I'll share maybe a little presentation we did for the Adelaide Hospital. I think this came up today. We did this presentation a year ago, and the comment from the project manager was, if we would have had this 10 years ago, it would have saved us not millions, it would have saved us billions, right? Because all the problems we have now in 5,000 rooms, I think there were 2,000 of the rooms were not quite right. So it would have been a fantastic job for us, but unfortunately it wasn't invented at that time. So yeah, so there is a lot of opportunity, I think, for us there. So, but I personally enjoy the R&D part of it, so I have a lot of alliances with a number of organizations. We are now exploring basically, of course, oil and gas, where can it be used? But also in BIM and large-scale plant optimization. Similar processes like BIM actually exist in oil and gas already. So because they always push the envelope a bit more than any other industry, I think there's a lot we can learn from the BIM people basically, like when the pump has died, so the assets attached to it, and SAP is relatively big in this already actually. So, of course, lean manufacturing is a specific one we are quite interested, especially with the interaction between humans and robotics, you know, coming as a big challenge and very rapidly towards us. So we had a business development plan, and we talked with our man with project management today. So he has left for today, but I can't confirm enough how this works, because we put in research and development nowadays, we put 2 levels of project management on top of these organizations. And with UniSA was a classic example. We had an internal project manager from UniSA, and we had an external project manager from us. And basically the development was done within 12 months. Yeah? And that was only happening by weekly meetings, basically, and saying, are we tracking this? And because there's a massive resistance in large organizations to work with universities nowadays. I'm not sure if anyone has noticed that, but that's the reason why. Yeah? So we try to accommodate that. So we've got now existing sites in Mawson Lakes, so that was the original site basically, in Tech Park, and we've got one now in Perth, in Forest Field, and we just opened one in Munich in Germany as well. And so the next plan is basically, if we don't open one in between in Korea, we don't know yet, to open the next one in 2018 in Houston basically. And the idea of Catwalk is as well, we talked today about collaboration, but this is what sort of my dream is. If we have hundreds of these centers around the globe, we all can work together, really, in a nutshell. And so we see Catwalk as a gel, basically, to gel things together. So this is a bit of maybe in-house advertising, I think, for our research activities. We have been awarded with the University of South Australia an IMCRC grant, so this is a 5-year grant. We are 6 months into it, basically. And I could convince the IMCRC, which is the Advanced Manufacturing CRC, to give us a mandate how we can link other industries into the advanced manufacturing. And for sure, you know, what I have seen today, like BIM and construction is definitely one industry we want to work together with. And the idea behind all this is, rather than we invent all our little thing basically, and no one wants it, and everyone is frustrated, I think it's been time now that different industries use the same technology. It's not that everyone has to invent the little bit of technology basically. And I'm in talks in the moment to, we are already in the advanced manufacturing space, but we are talking with research with organizations with, I think they call them growth centers, with oil and gas and mining, so it's the obvious ones for us, but I think with BIM is another possibility. So I make you maybe aware of currently looking under the IMCRC grant for other projects, and this is not limited to Australia, so this can be other countries as well. So yeah, Catwalk is, like some users said to us, is an exciting experience, and we want to make it fun. So that means if you ever have done a catwalk, you go home very satisfied because you have achieved something, right? And so had to change my title. So I'm now the CEO, and so my job is to excite you all, of course, actually. So thanks very much for your attention, and anytime you want to visit Catwalk, please let me know, and I would be more than delighted, me or someone else from the team, to show you around, basically. Thank you for your attention.